Pittsburgh Penguins play hockey today. Now, PFRs will be back, Season 2 will be back, but I am not going to be doing preseason games. I'm sorry. What do you want me to talk about? This prospect for the Blue Jackets scored a goal on Tristan Jarry. I could do that. One more thing before we get started, though. I am writing for Pittsburgh Hockey Now, so I'll be able to cover the Penguins up close and in-depth this season. Alongside Dan Kingerski, I'll have links in the description of that. I've talked about that in previous videos as well. Go check that out. But today, I want to go over just a season preview in general. I did a rookie video. I did a lineup prediction video. But let's just go very broad here and talk about just what the Penguins could do this season as a team, as a franchise. Could they make the playoffs? Could they miss the playoffs? Could they win the Stanley Cup? Could they win the draft lottery? Now, last season, every team was confined to their own divisions and only played outside of them once they went into the playoffs. The Penguins did not do that at all because they lost to a team that was in their division. And long story short, what I'm trying to say here is I'm so freaking excited to play other teams this year. Well, I'm not going to be playing myself, but I'm excited to see the Seattle Kraken face off against the Penguins. I'm excited to see Phil Kessel return to Pittsburgh, Marc-Andre Fleury come back to Pittsburgh, things like that. Matt Murray still hasn't made his return to Pittsburgh. Guys that were traded last year, Hornquist has not made his return to Pittsburgh. So that'll all be happening this year, and I'm so freaking excited for it. Now, let's go over the Metro Division because, again, some of these teams weren't in the Metro Division. There wasn't a Metro Division last year. What they did this offseason, I'm going to go over this very quickly because there's a bunch of other articles and things that you can look at. There's other YouTubers that you can watch to, go in depth on a specific team. But this does impact the Penguins in the aspect that, good players have moved in the division. Bad players have also moved in the division. And, players have shuffled around. Writing this on the board, though, I was very surprised to see a lot of interdivision movement, which I'll talk about in a second here. But these are the standings. I have the teams listed in terms of the standings had this been the Metropolitan Division last year. Funny enough, the Penguins, who won their division, the East Division, would have not finished first, and it would have been the Carolina Hurricanes, they were in the Central or something like that. They had 80 points. And the Hurricanes, they've done a lot this offseason, most specifically their goaltending. Completely moved out Nedeljkovic and Mrazek, brought in Frederik Andersen, which will be interesting. Let me know if you guys think he's a starter. Again, I'm not going to get super in-depth on these specific teams rather than how this could impact the Penguins. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, also added by the Hurricanes. Anthony DeAngelo. There's that whole story. They got rid of Hamilton, Dougie Hamilton, who is one of the names that I kind of alluded to with stayed in the division. Brock McGinn also stays in the division. Wonder where he went. Jake Bean, Peter Mrazek as well. The Penguins added McGinn and Heinen, and they lost McCann and Tanev. You all know how I feel about that. I have previous videos on that. Never should have lost McCann. Still so freaking mad about it. Two of my favorite players, two of the best depth players. The Capitals didn't do much this offseason. They added Matt Irwin, and they got rid of Zdeno Chara and Brendan Dillon. They re-signed Ovechkin, but these are additions and subtractions that I'm putting here. They haven't really done much. They had a subtraction with their backup goaltender. Shoot, who was that? Vitek Vanacek, who they lost, but then they got him back. So not much movement from the Capitals. Are they a playoff team? Again, I said this last year and I was wrong, but I think this year the Penguins and the Capitals don't both make the playoffs. I think one of those teams misses it. We'll get to my predictions later on in this video. The Islanders didn't do much as expected. They brought in Parise, Chara, and then they made a trade. They traded out Nick Leddy for Richard Panik, who could be a good player for them. Most notable thing there is Zdeno Chara is on the Islanders, and I'm so excited to see Sidney Crosby just absolutely skate past him because he's 44? Dear Lord. And they also have Andy Green on that team. Andy Green and Zdeno Chara on the same defensive pairing. Pellick and Pulick are good. That's ridiculous, though. Rangers added Ryan Reeves. That is important because as much as we love Ryan Reeves, he's not going to take no prisoners when he plays the Penguins. Do the Penguins have someone that can fight him? Do the Penguins have somebody that can fight Wilson? Is that a thing that the Penguins need? That debate will, go on for all of eternity. Barclay Goodrow was added by the Rangers as well. They did lose Pavel Buchnevich, who Mason is so happy about because he went to St. Louis. That's a good player, but Goodrow could definitely fill that hole. Flyers. A lot to go over here, so much so that I didn't even fit everyone on the board. Keith Yandel also is not even on the board. They added him. They added Keith Yandel, Rasmus Ristolainen, and Martin Jones, which are honestly all kind of laughable. But they also added Ryan Ellis, who's a very good defenseman, and they got Cam Atkinson, who still might have something left to show. And they got rid of Gostisbehere, Nolan Patrick, Brian Elliott as the backup, and they traded for Atkinson 1-for-1 with Voracek, and they lost him. But again, Voracek, we'll get to him, still in the division. So a lot of moves with the Flyers. And, you know, there's a thing where the Flyers are bad one year and they're good another year. This would be the year, if that pattern continues, that the Flyers would be good. Don't be surprised if the Devils sneak into the playoff race, because they added not only Dougie Hamilton, who's a very good defenseman, they have nothing to lose to also, and they added Thomas Tatar, who I just have a feeling is going to be like the next Penguin killer. He's already played good against the Penguins in the past, but now that he's on a division rival team, which doesn't score much, Tatar, I feel like could be that next Pavel Zajac that the Penguins just freaking hate to play against. And then the Blue Jackets, who I think will be the worst team in this division this year. They added Voracek, they brought him back, and then they got rid of Seth Jones so that they could sell him, and they brought in Adam Boquist and Jake Bean. Atkinson, of course, going the other way in the Voracek deal. So I'll go over what I think the standings will be towards the end of this video, but I did want to go over the Metropolitan Division and, you know, what happened. The Penguins themselves, we'll go over to the right side now, or the left side of your screen. This is what I think the Penguins' depth chart looks like. These are not the lines, because Malkin and Crosby are on there. They're both hurt to start the season. These are the Penguins' current injuries. Zach Aston-Reese tested positive for COVID today. And then Radim Anson's, whatever. He was injured, so why not throw him in there? Two big stamps, obviously, Crosby and Malkin. So on the depth chart, there's really not much to go over because it's the top 9 is pretty much just locked if we're to be fully healthy. Guentzel, Rust, Zucker, and Kapanen will be your rotating top 6 wingers. Crosby and Malkin will be your 1-2 centers. Carter will be your 3rd-line center. Blueger will be your 4th-line center. These are things that were locked into place. Zach Aston-Reese will also likely play with Teddy Blueger. So there's not much movement that can go around here. However, should there? I talked about Nathan Legare's potential to make the team in a recent Pittsburgh Hockey Now article that I wrote. And one of the points that I bring up is that, yes, Kapanen, Rust, Guentzel, and Zucker were the guys that moved around in the top 6 when the Penguins were fully healthy. However, does that change this season when you have guys like Rodrigues, Simone, and even Legare and Poulin that could play top 6 minutes and therefore move guys down in the lineup, so you have a Hagelin, Bonino, Kessel type line with, say, Kapanen, Zucker, and Carter, or McGinn and Zucker and Carter or Blueger, or you know what I'm trying to say here? The Penguins are very top heavy in terms of how they balance out their roster. Guys like Simone, sadly, Rodrigues, sadly, or maybe even Legare and Poulin could be a top 6 winger, but not actually a top 6 winger. You don't think of them as a top 6 winger, but they do play the top 6 position, similar to how Scott Wilson played on the 2nd line in the 2017 playoffs, so that Hagelin and Kessel could play on the bottom, 3rd line. That's what I'm trying to say here, is that, what do you think about that? Could Rust move down to the 3rd line just to balance out the scoring? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. The defense, again, it's either very easy to predict, or we could shuffle it up and put Dumoulin on the right side, as Dan wrote in a recent Pittsburgh Hockey Now article as well. Does Dumoulin move over to the right side so that Joseph can come up and take a spot, so that you don't have to play Shadow Ruedel or Mark Friedman? Because as of right now, that's looking like who gets to that final spot on the defense is Ruedel or Friedman, which I'm not too sure about. Do you separate Dumoulin and Letang? What do the defensive pairings look like? Does John Marino have a bounce-back season? Let me know again in your comment section down below, because we don't know yet. Goaltending, though, is something that really you can't argue about, because Tristan Jarry is back, new pads, new goaltending coach. He's ready to take the next step. He has faith from Hextall, from Sullivan, from his teammates. We'll see if he can do it, but, Jarry to Smith will be the Penguins tandem. I am still loving the Domingue signing. So, most important players. I also wanted to make this video so I could show off some of my new logos. This is a little injured Penguin. He's next to the injured guys. I'm going to be using this a lot if the Penguins like lose to the Sabres, and I'm going to be using this logo. It's based off of this logo. I'm going to pull it up on screen right now. This logo I pretty much drew. He's right there. And then also the other logo that I kind of wanted to show off is my Wilkes-Barre logo, which whatever. I'm such an artist. Anyways, Wilkes-Barre, aka or rookies, prospects that could make the leap. There's 4 of them, and they're the 4 most obvious ones. Pierre-Olivier Joseph is the most ready, in my opinion, because we've seen him in the NHL. We saw him last season. He looked great. Why did they take him out of the lineup? I don't know. Filip Hallander, who sadly was injured at camp. He could have, fought for that 4th line spot right now. And then Samuel Poulin and Nathan Legare, who I both think are ready for at least a shot. I don't think they're necessarily ready to be superstars, but just give them a shot, especially if Zucker or if Danton Heinen fall out. Danton Heinen's contract could go down to Wilkes-Barre and the Penguins wouldn't have to pay a cap penalty for it. We kind of write him off as though he already has a roster spot on his team, which in reality he doesn't. He is playing on the first line right now, technically. Whatever. I'm not trying to bash him. I'm just saying, you never know. Legare, Poulin are there. And then, of course, the PTOs, which I don't have on the board now that I'm noticing. Matt Bartkowski and Brian Boyle. Bartkowski's not going to get signed. Here's my insider information from being at training camp. Bartkowski's not getting signed. Brian Boyle is getting signed. You heard it here first, or last, or whatever. He's getting signed. He's looked good in training camp, and the Penguins desperately need him with Crosby and Malkin out right now. He looks good despite not playing last season, and he's gonna get signed, and he's gonna be the Penguins' 4th line center to start the season. So I probably should have added him to the depth chart. They are testing out Radim Zohorna at center right now. I don't know if he's necessarily going to stay there, but he's looked good in camp just overall as a player. So maybe put him on the right wing and Boyle on the center for the 4th line with Aston-Reese out now because there's another player that's gone. One more thing to mention about this season is that it's an Olympic year, and I did a whole video on that too because I was so happy. The Penguins and the NHL, of course, are back in the Olympics. And I did a prediction on who's going to make it. Crosby and Malkin will make it. Blueger will make it. Guentzel has a very good chance of making it, and it's already confirmed that Mike Sullivan will be the head coach, and he'll bring his posse with him as well. So, the Penguins will have a very big impact on the Olympics. Please, nobody get hurt, okay? Nobody is going to get hurt. Crosby's going to win gold. It's going to be all right. But that's happening too this year, which is, worth noting. And then to wrap up this video, I wanted to go over some hot takes or some bold predictions. I asked you guys on Twitter for it, and that's why I have the Flames logo up here, because it's a hot take. Shut up. Don't make fun of me. Anyways, for these, I'm going to be doing the buy or sell thing that we do for Colonial Sports Center. Go check out Colonial Sports Center if you're interested in Robert Morris Athletics. Anyways, I'm going to be either buying, which means I believe, or selling these things before I get into my final predictions and we wrap this video up. Penguins missed the playoffs. While it is a thing that has a lot of oomph behind that claim, there are reasons why you could believe that the Penguins could not make the playoffs. I still don't see it. I think the Penguins are the epitome of adversity, especially when it comes to injuries. Oh, would you look at that? Our 2 best players are injured. Watch the Penguins go 10-0 to start the season. Jeff Carter will lead the league in scoring. It's just a thing that the Penguins are good at. And on paper, it may look like the Penguins are fading, which I do not even on paper. They are fading, okay? They haven't won a Stanley Cup since 2017, have not won a playoff round in the past 3 years. They've been out in 3 straight first-round exits. But the regular season is not the playoffs. I'm going to sell this because I still think the Penguins are making the playoffs. So, speaking of earlier, that gives you a thing on what I think the Capitals are going to finish this year. Guentzel hits 40 goals. The last time Jake Guentzel played in an 82-game season, he scored 40 goals. Last season was not an 82-game season. The year before, he was injured. Jake Guentzel will hit 40 goals this season. That's a bold take, but I'm going to buy it. Jason Zucker has a bounce-back season. Now, this is a very broad claim. Anything could honestly be a bounce-back season for him. I guess what I'm trying to say here is Zucker has a bounce-back season. He remains on the team, and he remains as a core player and is not traded. I'm going to buy this because in an interview that he did with the media the other day, he literally came out and said that he sucked last year, which I love when players own up to that. Jordie has a bounce back season and is a Vezina candidate. This is not one that I did myself. This is from Let's Talk Pitt. Cody Flavel runs that account. Go check out his work. Pittsburgh Sports Castle. Of course, you guys know them. Remember them? Go check him out. This is one I'm going to have to disagree with, though. I think he'll have a bounce back season. I think he'll have a relatively similar season to what he had last year in the regular season, because he wasn't bad in the regular season. It's just that we only remember what happened in the playoffs. I don't think he's a Vezina candidate. I'm going to sell the Vezina part, but I'm going to buy the bounce back part. And again, not only because I want it to happen, because I do think it will happen. Rust hits 60-plus points. This one was submitted by a fan as well, JP Gillies on Twitter. Oh, 60 points. I don't know off the top of my head Rust's career high in points, but that's bold, saying that he'll hit that. But then again, this is an 82-game season, and Bryan Rust is in a contract year. I'm going to buy this. Again, all of these are positive things that I'm buying. Well, selling, missing the playoffs. But, I don't know, Rust, especially with Malkin and Crosby out to start the season, Rust has proven in the past that he can carry a line by himself, which kind of alludes to the thing I said earlier. Do you put Rust on the third line when Crosby and Malkin get back? He doesn't need Sidney Crosby to be an elite level player anymore. So starting off the season, do not be surprised if Bryan Rust leads the NHL in goals. I don't think that'll happen by the end of the season, but 60 points? Maybe, out of Bryan Rust. Mike Sullivan is fired. Wow. I'm going to sell this one because we don't know anything yet. This team not only loves Mike Sullivan, but won the Eastern, Conference, division last year. And playoff success cannot necessarily be solely his fault, despite, I don't know, I don't think he's fired this season. I think he's fired, if he is going to be fired, it would be in an off season if something goes bad in the playoffs, which we are nowhere close to, looking at. So the Penguins trade Pettersson or Matheson this season. I'm going to buy this one because I think it was going to happen this off season and it just never did. The Penguins need the cap space. The Penguins have Pierre-Olivier Joseph ready. There's really not much else to say. I think it's going to be one of the two. I think the easier contract to move is Pettersson, surprisingly, even though that contract's not very good. Matheson's is somehow worse. Malkin and Letang leave in the offseason. I'm going to say no, just because they've been here for so long, and I think they're comfortable here in the city, and it's too crazy to happen. It depends on what happens in the playoffs this year. If the Penguins make a deep run, they'll stay. If the Penguins, I think they stay nonetheless. Something very bad has to happen for these guys to not stay, in my opinion. So I'm going to sell this idea. Legare, Poulin, and Joseph make the team. Now, the wording on this is kind of weird. What I'm trying to say is that they will make their NHL debut, Legare and Poulin, and then that Joseph will make the team. I think I'm going to buy that because I think we will see Legare and Poulin this season. I don't know if we'll see him consistently. I don't know if we'll see him on a fully healthy roster. I don't know if we'll bring them into the playoffs. I do think we will see them, though. At least one game. Both of them. Not just Legare, not just Poulin. Crosby wins the Hart. Guentzel wins the Rocket Richard. This is a bold take. While it should happen with Crosby and the Hart, I'm going to sell it just because he doesn't get the recognition that he used to. And Guentzel, I'm going to sell this as well. Well, I think he will hit 40 goals this year. I don't see him winning the Rocket Richard. I think. Anyways, Penguins win the Stanley Cup. We'll have to wait and see. I would love to buy that. So let's get into the portion where I go over my predictions for what the Metropolitan Division looks like, as well as my prediction for the Stanley Cup winner, and maybe I'll throw in some awards as well. All right, let's do a speed round here of predictions that I have for the 2021-2022 NHL season. We'll go by divisions to start. I'm going to put the logos up in order of who I think is going to finish at the bottom of each division and towards the top. So we'll start in the Far East. The Sabres are going to suck this year, which is a death taxes and the Sabres sucking. Yeah. The Red Wings are not ready yet to go on a run here. Canadians, they're going to suck this year, aren't they? All signs point towards it. They lost a lot of pieces. Shea Weber's not coming back. Ottawa is the fifth best team in this division, just based on the fact that everyone else sucks. The Florida Panthers have a good roster. It's a matter of what they do with it in the playoffs is, what we've been saying for years. Toronto will be a good team as well. The Lightning, I don't think, win the division. I think they'll sit back and let another team do that so that they can beat them in the playoffs, and that team is Boston. Again, just brief predictions here. We'll skip the Metro for now because that's what you guys are here for. Central Division. The Coyotes are also going to suck this year. Do you guys know who their goaltenders are? I don't. The Blackhawks. And the Wild got Kaprizov. I did my rankings and I put them in order, but I'm contemplating them now. The Blackhawks, they have some questionable pieces there. You know what? The Predators kind of have sucked recently. They haven't done anything important since 2017. They don't really have any standout players. Pecorine retired. I'm gonna go with the Predators. Then I'll go with the Blackhawks. They got Fleury though, so they could go on a tear here. This division's weak. And a team could make the playoffs easily here. Not easily, but you know what I mean. Minnesota Wild, they're the most irrelevant franchise. They got their best player back, but they still don't have anyone else. They have a good blue line, I guess, whatever. Who's their goalie? Cam Talbot? I don't even know. The Jets are good. They'll be good. Could they win a cup? I don't think so. Stars will be good. Stars will bounce back. They had a rough year last year with COVID, with injuries, with floods in Dallas, so they'll definitely bounce back. St. Louis will be good as well. And then I have the Avalanche winning the division. I don't have them winning the cup, though. We'll get to that later. Pacific Division. The Sharks suck. They are not in the same aspect as the Sabres, the Coyotes, everyone else. Those guys at least have some prospects, some picks. These guys have terrible contracts, and they're a terrible team. They should trade Thomas Hertl. I don't know what they're doing. The Ducks are slightly better just because they have young players. The Kings could do something this year. Don't be surprised if the Kings do something this year. They added Filip Dano. They added Victor Arvidsson. They added Alex Edler. They are trusting Cal Peterson to be their starting goaltender. They'll probably trade Jonathan Quick or get rid of him by the end of the season. If they make the playoffs, maybe is Drew Doughty back to the same shape he was? Is Kopitar capable to carry a team? Hell yeah, he still is able to. Maybe they'll be on a team like the Vancouver Canucks, who I have no idea how to think of them because they have some awful players on that team, but also some amazing players on that team. You know what? Now that I think about it, Pettersson isn't signed. So as long as he's not signed, I'm putting him down there, and the Kings are going to go above him. Challenge for a playoff spot, along with, and yes, I have the Seattle Kraken challenging for a playoff spot, potentially making it. I don't be surprised. They're not going to be Vegas first year, but they got some good pieces there. And Jared McCann is their first line center. So hell yeah, they're making the playoffs. Calgary and Edmonton. Edmonton will make the playoffs because they have McDavid. Calgary will make it because why not? And the Vegas Golden Knights will lead the division there. In our division, the Metropolitan Division, it's glad to say that finally for the first time in whatever years. I already said that Columbus is probably going to be the worst team in this division. They don't have anyone good there outside of Patrick Laine, who is a 50-50. The Devils, while, again, they could do something, this is the toughest division in all of the league. I wish the Penguins were in a different division because I would easily have them making the playoffs. Don't see it on that roster. I'm sorry. It's old. While the Penguins are getting old as well, they at least have some young players like Guentzel. I don't see it with the Capitals. I don't. I'm sorry. They traded Jacob Vrana. They, got rid of, who else do they even have? They have Daniel Sprong and Justin Schultz and washed up players. And I think the only thing they're focusing on right now is getting Ovechkin that goal record. Really, I do. So I don't have them making the playoffs. I don't have the Rangers making the playoffs yet because this division's just too hard. If they were in another division, yeah. If they were in the Pacific Division, I might have them second. This division's just too hard because you got teams like the Islanders who are not a regular season team, but they will make the playoffs and they could have another long run. Eastern Conference Finals, back to back. The Penguins will be third in the division. That's my prediction so far. The Flyers will beat them out in the regular season. They'll have their good season as well. And the Carolina Hurricanes will win the Metropolitan Division. Now, none of this means anything because I really only care about the Stanley Cup. And let's do this dramatically. Here's my prediction on who wins the 2021 Stanley Cup. So I'm going to dramatically remove the logos here. All right, so we'll get rid of the guys that are not making the playoffs, and we'll get rid of the Toronto Maple Leafs because that's just not a thing that will happen, and the Florida Panthers because they're not making it past round 1. Seattle's not winning in year 1. The Flyers can't win the Stanley Cup. McDavid's never going to win a cup with the Oilers. With the Oilers, unless he requests a trade. Dallas. Oh, and there goes Winnipeg that took him with it. Calgary's not winning the cup. I love how dramatic this is. Don't see it. I don't see it. I'm sorry. They're going to explode this offseason. Once the Vegas Golden Knights not miss the playoffs, once they are eliminated in this year's playoffs, they're going to explode. They're going to go after Eichel or something like that. Penguins aren't winning the Stanley Cup this year. I'm sorry. It's just not there. I'm sorry. I know it's the least exciting pick, but I had the Tampa Bay Lightning win the 2022 Stanley Cup. Let's go over these really quickly. Do I think the Penguins will win the Stanley Cup? We already went through it. No. Don't think they're winning the division, so therefore they won't win the President's Trophy. The Penguins won't win the Cup, so they won't win the Conn Smythe winner. Hart Trophy. Only person would be Crosby, in my opinion. The NHL's not going to be nice to him and give it to him this year. Norris Trophy. Does Letang win it? Probably not, unless he has an amazing contract year. Again, I don't think he gets enough respect. Should he be at least a nominee? Yes. Will he? No. Calder, Penguins don't have any rookies or prospects that are good. Art Ross? No. Selke? Crosby? Probably not. Vezina? Lady Byng? No. Jack Adams? Sullivan? He should have won it last year. Not going to win it this year. If he does the same thing he did last year and he can't get nominated, then he's not even going to be even close. Jay Guentzel's not going to win the Rocket. King Clancy? No. Ted Lindsay? No. Messier? Crosby, maybe. Masterson, Bryan, Boyle, he won it a couple years back, maybe. Hexel's not winning shit. Jennings, not with Jari. I'm sorry. I gotta get to class. Thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. The Pittsburgh Penguins play hockey tonight. It's gonna take me forever to edit this video, isn't it? I'll see you all in the next video, whenever the hell it will be.